Hey guys, tonight we slip back into an era when waking up late could cost you more than just your job. Picture this. You stir on the cold, hard ground with a straw mat poking your back last night. You somehow fell asleep in your soft bed, and now you're here, clad in a rough linen tunic that smells like wet hay and someone else's sweat. You reach down instinctively for your phone, but of course, no such thing exists here. A wiry man with a beard like an untrimmed broomstick throws you a chess piece made of boiled leather. You'll either get used to the stink or die before it matters. It's so stiff it creaks when you try to bend it. Your shoulders complain immediately. Your boots are just cloth wrapped with rope. Better not step on anything sharp. What exists instead is a bundle of cloth that's meant to be your sleeping mat and a thin piece of armor beside you, which might as well be cardboard. Someone shouts your name, or what seems to be your name now, and tosses a helmet at your feet. The dent in it says it's been used. Maybe even by someone who didn't make it past his first morning. No one tells you where to go. You just copy the man in front of you. Your legs are sore from sleeping on uneven earth. Your head aches from the stress. Your lips are cracked. And worst of all, your armpits smell like fear. The line stretches toward a crude assembly yard made of packed dirt. You're not sure what is worse, the indifference or the knowledge that no one would notice if it were you. There's no real formation. It's a messy clump of tired, underfed men with weapons they barely know how to hold. You hold a long spear that's too tall for you and has a suspicious chip at the tip. Your hands already blister. It's mostly water pretending to be food, and the faint scent of dried sky from last night as rain lingering in your nose. He launches into a speech about loyalty, valor, and how heaven favors the righteous. You try to focus, but your stomach growls, and your brain is busy screaming that you're wearing someone else's crusty underwear. Sweat already coats your face, and it's not even sunrise yet. The air smells like wood smoke, old urine, and anxiety. The officer finishes his speech. A smaller bell rings. Breakfast, someone says. A chicken runs across the yard mid-speech. No one reacts. Probably a daily thing. The sky above is still a pale gray. Not yet dawn, but the camp is already alive. Men shout as they jostle for their gear. Chickens cluck furiously somewhere behind the makeshift latrine, and a soldier 2 paces away is snoring like a dying buffalo. You sit up. You were in a military camp during the late Eastern Han Dynasty, around the year 196 CE, and guess what? You probably won't survive this. You glance around, heart pounding. You still can't believe it. The commander paces through the camp like a rooster with anger management issues. His voice cuts through the morning haze like a sword through tofu. At least that's what the others are whispering. Historians still argue whether his sheer numbers helped or hindered him in the long run, but right now, none of that matters. What matters is that you've somehow been conscripted, and your name is on today's roster. You scramble to your feet, nearly tripping on a wooden bucket someone left lying around. A kid next to you, maybe 15, starts crying softly. No one pays attention. You barely do either. Your heart's racing too fast. This is the army under Yuan Shao, one of the most powerful warlords in the north. You shuffle toward the makeshift armor station. Well, if you can call it that. First day, someone mutters next to you. You nod. He grins, showing 2 teeth. Charming fellow. A horn blares in the distance, low, guttural, like someone sat on a dying cow, and that seems to be the signal. Everyone begins lining up. A senior officer climbs onto a wooden crate. Suddenly, someone beside you collapses. No one helps. Heat stroke, malaria, or maybe he just finally gave up. You wipe your brow. Don't get too excited. The toothy man chuckles. As you follow the group toward the feeding tent, or rather, a patch of dirt with bowls laid out on crates, you already know this day will test you in ways school, work, or heartbreak never could. Somewhere deep inside, a thought bubbles up like a bad dumpling. If this is just the first morning, What horrors could the rest of the day bring? The food looks like something that fell off a cart and was scooped back up out of pity. You rehanded a wooden bowl that still has someone else's bite marks along the rim. Inside is a watery mess that might generously be called porridge. Floating on the surface are what you hope are leaves. A man beside you finds a worm in his and quietly sets the bowl down, staring off into space like he's just remembered home. You don't have that luxury. You hold your breath and swallow. It's warm, at least. Slightly salty, slightly smoky, and thoroughly depressing. You get about 4 mouthfuls before it's gone. The server's boy is too young for war, but old enough to carry pots. Say that's your ration for the day. Breakfast and maybe lunch. An instructor shouts at you to lunge. You do. He whacks your side with a bamboo stick. Wrong form. You lunge again. Still wrong. Your arms are sore already. You chew the inside of your mouth for moisture and try not to look at the guy slurping the last dregs from his bowl like it as soup from a 5-star buffet. You're sweating so hard that your tunic clings to your back like paper. The kid who cried this morning is now vomiting in the corner. No one helps him. He's slowing things down. You slump under a tree, ignoring the ants crawling on your leg. You don't even swat them. You're too tired to care. You wonder how anyone survives a full week here. You file into a line where a sour-faced officer smacks your spear with the flat of his sword. A young officer on a black mare surveys the group like he's picking vegetables. The straw mat is damp. The smell is worse than this morning. Someone's snoring already. Someone else is whispering a prayer to Guan Yu. He points at 3 people, including you. Field duty, he says. Come now. It wobbles. He frowns. He looks at you like it's your fault. You mumble something about it being your first day. He doesn't care. Turns out it means lugging sacks of dried millet from the camp's edge to the food tent. Each sack weighs more than your sense of hope. You hoist it over your shoulder. Your spine makes a sound it shouldn't. You start to envy the men who stayed in the pit getting smacked with sticks. At least they weren't hauling grain like cursed oxen. Your stomach already feels hollow again. A passing officer claps you on the back and says, "Not bad for a first day. Most puke by now." You manage a weak smile. "Eat ants if you're desperate. Protein." He's serious. You blink at him. He nods solemnly. Learned that from a shoe spy. Swore by it. You stare at your bowl, wondering how this sludge is expected to keep you alive through a battle. A joke bubbles up in your head. It is like instant noodles if you took away the noodles and the flavor and the dignity. You snort softly. The man next to you glances over, not sharing the joke. But standing in that sun, with your guts rumbling and your shoes coming undone, you know how it feels. There's no tea. No water jug. It's the same porridge as breakfast, slightly colder. You close your eyes and pretend it's hot pot. It's not. You cough on a twig and nearly choke. A guard gives you a thump on the back that nearly unhinges your spine. Once everyone's done pretending that was a meal, it's time for weapons inspection. Your name gets marked on a bamboo slip. Light infantry, someone barks. That means you're expendable. They don't say it, but the tone makes it clear. You'll be among the first sent in, meat shield tier. Historians still argue whether the lower ranks of the 3 kingdoms era were truly so disposable, or whether we read just seeing the accounts that survived from the generals. You're marched into a training yard. Again, that's being generous. It's more like a dirt pit surrounded by half-rotten posts. After 20 tries, he gives up and moves on. Suddenly, a horse trots into the yard. You don't ask what that means. You just follow. By the 3rd trip, your arms are jelly and you're wheezing like you've smoked a pack of scrolls. As the sun climbs higher, the heat intensifies. No shade, no water breaks. Finally, when you can't feel your toes and your vision is starting to sparkle a little, someone calls break. A man beside you, clearly older and more experienced. leans over and whispers. You file that under disturbing but possibly useful. By evening, you're sent back to the same bull camp for what's generously called supper. You finally crawl back to your spot under the lean-to, muscles aching, heart pounding. You lie down and stare at the stars. Your stomach growls. You smell like boiled socks. You taste regret. This was just the food part of the day. Tomorrow, they say, you march into battle. They wake you up before the sun does. A loud clang, a kick to the side, and a voice yelling words that sound like your name but with more spit. You sit up, body stiff and sticky, eyes barely able to open. Everyone is silent except for the occasional groan and the sound of someone coughing up what might have been last night is supper or just part of their lung. The air is cold, damp, and carries the smell of sweat, wood smoke, and something meat-like you hope isn't human. Your joints feel like they've aged a century overnight. That's your ration for the entire march. No canteen, no second serving. It's BYO hydration from puddles and hope. The officers ride on horseback, of course. They don't march. They occasionally shout things like, pick up the pace, or no stopping unless dead. Very motivational. You stretch, and your back pops in 3 separate places. Others, especially the ones written decades later, mention chaos, starvation, and men dying on the side of the road without anyone noticing. Judging by today, the truth probably leaned toward the tragic. You're too tired to flinch. You just keep going. Your legs move on autopilot now. The road is dust and rock, and each step kicks up another small cloud. You're breathing in the back of the person in front of you, who smells like pickled cabbage and despair. You end up in a long horizontal line in the middle of a dusty field surrounded by hills. A few senior officers ride up front and point at things you can't see. Maybe enemy scouts, maybe ghosts. You're not entirely sure anymore. You chew the rice balls slowly to make it last, even though it tastes like chalk rolled in sawdust. You don't respond, you just grip your spear tighter. Today's marching day. The rope around your ankle digs into your skin, and within 10 minutes your heel is bleeding. You all stare at it like it's a sacred artifact. He breaks it in half, gives you a piece. You almost cry, and as you drift into a half-sleep, you dream not of glory, not of battle, but of a single hot shower and a bowl of real food. You consider asking for a break, but realize that no one else is stopping. The officer says you'll camp here for the night. You sleep on rocks and dirt under a sky full of stars and no roof. You're too tired to be afraid. If you move, the instructor yells. If you scratch, the officer glares. If you faint, well, someone already did that, and they were dragged to the side like a broken stool. You're told to advance, pivot, retreat, advance again. Your palms are raw from gripping the wooden shaft of your spear. You're sweating so much that your shirt is translucent. Your vision pulses with each beat of your heart. The commands come too fast. You bump into the guy beside you more than once. A stick comes down on your back. Not too hard, just enough to sting and humiliate. Eventually, the man gets up on his own, blood dripping from his nose. You briefly make eye contact. His eyes are glassy and distant. You look away. You drink from a muddy puddle with your bare palms. It's probably teeming with bacteria, but it's cold and tastes better than the rice ball. One man has a noticeable limp and keeps going anyway. Another is already wheezing like a rusty bellows. You line up with the others while the sky is still dark blue and yawning open. They hand you your spear and a cloth bag that holds 2 items, a dry rice ball and a strip of dried meat so tough you could weasel shoes with it. You start walking. The boots, if you can even call them that, are already fraying. There are about 200 of you in this group, light infantry and conscripts mostly. A tree branch hits you in the face as you trudge through a narrow forest path. Mid-march, someone ahead stumbles and falls. The line shifts, steps over him, and continues. No one stops. Not even the officers. Historians still debate how organized these troop movements really were. Some records describe a disciplined structure with rest points and logistic support. By mid-morning, the sun is a giant hammer in the sky. Then someone yells, "Formation." You don't even know what formation. You just stop and copy everyone else. A man next to you leans over and mutters, "If we die today, I hope it's quick." And then it starts. Not a full battle, not yet. Just practice formations. Your feet keep slipping on loose gravel. Then, just when you think it's over, they tell you to hold position. You stand in the sun for nearly half an hour, knees trembling, eyes squinting, and then finally you're allowed to sit. You drop like a sack of bricks. Your hands are shaking. Someone shares a boiled egg. He says he found it in his bag and forgot about it. As night falls, you reach a riverbank. You curl up in your thin tunic, back aching, stomach growling. When morning comes, there's no bugle, no gentle call, no snooze button. Just the flat smack of a stick on the ground and a barked order to get moving. You wake up feeling like a damp towel that's been wrung out and left on a rock. Every joint aches. Your lips are cracked. You dreamt of soup and woke up tasting dirt. Today is your first real battle. Sort of. At least, that's the rumor swirling through camp. No one confirms it officially, but the officers look tense, and a cart of extra spears just arrived. That's usually a bad sign. They hand you a wet cloth to wipe your face. It smells like mildew and regret. You rub it across your cheeks anyway. After another small rice ball breakfast and half a sip of water from a shared gourd, they line you up again. This time, there's a lot more shouting and a lot less structure. The officer in charge of your line is sweating bullets and keeps glancing toward the hills. Someone whispers, "It's the yellow turbans." You grip your spear so tightly that your knuckles ache. You haven't been trained for this. You've practiced walking in a straight line and stabbing the air. That's it. Another says, "No, it's Sunjan's lot." He drops without a sound. No scream, no drama. Just down. You're not even sure who's supposed to be the enemy. You leap sideways without thinking. This isn't a heroic charge. It's barely controlled chaos. Historians still argue whether many of these early skirmishes were planned battles or just chaotic clashes between rival militias with vague flags and too much testosterone. Men in ragged clothes holding mismatched weapons, faces drawn tight with fear and fury. Pure noise. Screaming metal, wood splintering, the sound of something wet hitting the ground. You drop forward and feel your spear hit something. You don't look. You keep moving. You raise your spear. You think you're supposed to yell something. You don't. You can barely breathe. Either way, you're standing in the middle of it now, in a field that smells like horse dung and cold ashes. The horn blows. Everyone flinches. The line starts to move, stumbling forward like a drunken centipede. Your helmet, if you can call that scrap a helmet, flies off. Time is broken. You just lie there, listening to the madness echo across the field. You try to scramble up, but someone steps on your hand. You yell. A blur of movement above you. Is that a sword? A staff. You don't wait to find out, then you hear it. He glances at you and says nothing. Just nods. Welcome to the club of not dead yet, but close. Drums, shouting, footsteps, and worse arrows. The first one lands 10 feet ahead, right in the chest of a man whose name you never learned. You crawl away, breath heaving, heart pounding. You reach the shade of a small hill and collapse behind it, curled in a ball, trying not to sob. You stop walking. You retrieve your spear, bent now, and limp toward the call. Someone shoves you from behind. "Go," they shout. Dust fills your lungs. You cough and nearly choke. Your spear wobbles in your grip like it wants to run away too, and so you go. Running now, your legs barely keeping up, your vision bouncing with each step. Another arrow lands to your left. Someone screams. Another hits the ground beside your foot. Then the enemy is in sight. They're just like you. The clash's noise, your ears still ring. Your hands won't stop shaking. Then you trip. You hit the dirt hard. Your face grinds into the ground. You roll. Your shoulder crunches in a way that doesn't feel great, but at least you're out from underfoot. You're not alone. A man is already there, pressing a cloth to his bleeding arm. You don't know how long the fight lasts. Maybe minutes. Maybe an hour. Eventually, the noise fades. Silence is worse. Someone shouts for survivors to regroup. You force yourself up. Your legs shake. Your hand still stings from being stomped. There are fewer of you. A lot fewer. No one says anything. No speeches. No cheers. Just a silent count of who's still breathing. You made it. Barely. That night you sit near the edge of camp. You can't eat. You can't sleep. Someone says you did well. You want to laugh. Instead you nod. You stare up at the stars again. They look the same as yesterday, but you don't. You wake up to the sound of your own teeth chattering. The river breeze is brutal, biting through your thin tunic and clinging to your damp skin like a curse. Your body is one enormous bruise. Everything aches. Even your dreams were sore. There's no time to rest. A shout rolls across the campsite, and just like that, you're up again, wobbling on stiff legs. Flies rise in clouds as you approach. The bodies are in every position imaginable, mouths open, eyes wide, frozen in mid-gesture. Some look surprised, some look peaceful. Most just look empty. Today you're told it's cleanup duty. Just a grunt and a lift. The first one is a man with half a helmet still on. Historians often focus on the big names, Cao Cao, Liu Bei, Sun Quan. But for every general on a scroll, there were hundreds of nameless men rotting in the dirt. No glory, no last words. Just this, his arms are twisted at an angle that makes your stomach turn. You almost drop him. You breathe a sigh of relief until you realize what that actually means. You're not picking up sticks, which is just a tarp with some herbs and one overworked, overwhelmed man with shaking hands. You're collecting the dead. You haven't eaten since the rice ball at sunrise. No one's mentioned food. A few of you chew dried grass just to keep your mouths busy. You don't cry. You're too tired. The battlefield is still there, barely touched. The grass is trampled, stained in dark smears. Your first job is to carry the corpses to a cart. There's no ceremony, no prayers. When it's full, it's dragged to the edge of the camp. It burns your throat and numbs your chest. You don't ask for more. He doesn't offer. A pit waits. It's not big enough. They pile them anyway. The second one is worse. He's missing part of his face. You look away as you heave him up. The smell is already starting. A veteran nearby tells you, breathe through your mouth. The older soldier laughs without humor. What family? You call for help and two others rush over. You pull him out together. His leg is mangled. Bone shows. He's delirious, whispering nonsense. One of the men says, too late. You sit on a rock, staring at your hands. They're black with dirt and blood, trembling even at rest. You wash them in the river, but it doesn't help. The stains are deeper than your skin now, the other says, maybe not. You don't know who to believe. You try. It helps a little, not much. This is what they didn't show in the stories. One of the bodies is a boy who couldn't be older than 15. His weapon lies beside him, unused. His eyes are closed. You wonder if someone shut them or if he died that way. Then you find someone still alive, barely. He's under a pile of limbs, groaning softly. You leave him in a medic tent. Back in the field, you feel something shift under your foot. You look down. It's someone's hand. You step back quickly and nearly fall. By midday, your arms are noodles and your back is a tight knot of pain. The cart creaks under the weight of the bodies. No markers. No names, just ash to be someday. You ask if any will be returned to their families. That sticks with you. In the evening, after the bodies are burned, the smell hangs in the air like fog. A man beside you offers a flask. You drink before asking what's in it. Someone tries to sing a song. No one joins in. That night, you sleep without dreams, just darkness, just silence. You're not sure what wakes you this time, the damp chill of the earth, the sound of coughing nearby, or the growing ache in your gut. You curl up tighter, but the ground offers no warmth, no comfort. The wind cuts through the camp like a whisper from the grave. You struggle to your feet, clutching your side. The wound throbs with every movement. Your wound from the fall, remember the one when you tripped during the battle, is now oozing a strange yellow. You hadn't noticed it until your tunic stuck to your ribs with a sticky, hot pain. You peel it back and wince. Not good. Why? You hear someone mutter, enemy scouts nearby. Another says, bandits, not soldiers. In this era, it's hard to tell the difference. Historians still argue whether roving warbands operated independently or as loose arms of larger armies. To you, it doesn't matter. Both want your food and your life. Every twig snap makes your heart jump, but there's no time to fuss. A horn blows, low and urgent. Pack up, someone shouts. We move before sunrise. Move where? No one answers. You rush forward and swing. It's not elegant, it's not brave. But it connects. You and two others are sent with buckets. One is a boy, barely 16. The blade clatters to the ground. The other is older and silent, his face hollowed by hunger and distrust. The officers don't ask questions. They beat him, then drag him off. You don't know what happens next. You don't want to. You stare at the stars, thinking about the moment you swung that stick, how close you were to dying, how unheroic it felt. The boy doesn't talk anymore, but deep down something's shifting. You can feel it. He just stares at the ground, arms wrapped around his knees. The officers look nervous. A few talk in hushed tones and point toward the hills. You're given a task: gather water from the stream. It sounds simple until you see the path. Dressed in patchwork rags and carrying a curved blade. Bandit, maybe, still trembling. He lunges forward, but the older man tackles him. They roll in the dirt, grunting, struggling. You don't ask why. You just hope it's drinkable. It winds down a muddy slope, slick from last night's rain, and cuts through a patch of forest that feels entirely too quiet. You descend carefully, boots squelching in the mud. The trees close in around you, their branches clawing at your arms and face. At the stream, you fill your buckets. The water is clear, but smells slightly of iron. Then the boy screams. You turn. There's a figure in the trees. Just one. You don't know what to do. You drop the bucket and grab a stick. Your spear was left at camp. The boy's frozen, mouth open, shaking. The man yelps and stumbles back. The older soldier pins him, drives his knee into his chest, and growls something you don't understand. You all stand there, breathing like animals, waiting for more attackers. None come. You drag the men back to camp, tied and bleeding. That night, you can't sleep. You look at your hands again. You try to tell yourself this is just survival, and your wound, it's worse now. Red, swollen, warm to the touch. The medic gives you a crushed root to chew, says it helps. You taste bitterness and fear. You wake in a cold sweat, your tongue dry, your side burning. The fever has arrived. Not a gentle warmth, but a raging fire under your skin. Every blink hurts. Every movement feels like dragging your body through wet sand. No one checks on you. You're just one of dozens sprawled out near the edge of camp, each coughing, moaning, or lying still. The older soldier from yesterday is gone. You don't ask where. You're not one of them. Too weak. You lie there, watching as they stagger away with sacks of grain. You feel useless. Then you feel relieved. The boy is still beside you, but his eyes are glassy, and he hasn't spoken since the ambush. Historians still debate what illnesses tore through armies in these campaigns: malaria, typhoid, dysentery, but None of those words matter when your body is shaking and you can't keep food down. For the first time all day, you feel a little human. A few soldiers trade tokens or scraps for a bite. You don't have anything to offer. She sees you anyway. You curl into yourself, shaking. Someone nearby starts sobbing. Another is whispering a prayer. You bite down on your blanket to stop yourself from moaning. Kneels, breaks off a chunk and places it in your hand without a word. A horn blasts 3 short notes. The meaning is clear. Enemy nearby. Maybe bandits. Maybe soldiers from another faction. Doesn't matter. A medic passes by, glances at you, and tosses a wad of chewed herbs into your palm. Put that on it, he mutters. You try. It stings like betrayal. You want to scream, but your throat is too dry. You hear murmurs of disease. Some say it's a swamp fever. Others whisper camp pestilence. Later that morning, a group is chosen to move supplies. The sky spins whenever you sit up. You crawl to the shade of a tree where flies buzz around a discarded helmet and the dry husk of what was once a rat. You sip water from a leaf. It tastes like rust. You see a friend from your old life, someone who never existed in this world, smiling at you. You reach for them and fall on your face, maybe. That's what they say. A woman walks through camp rare to see. She's older, wearing patched robes, balancing a basket of boiled roots. You try to thank her, but it comes out a whisper. The root is bitter, but it sits in your belly like something solid, like kindness. By afternoon, the fever spikes again. You hallucinate shapes in the trees. The wind sounds like voices. No one helps you up. When night comes, it brings cold that bites deeper because of the sweat. And then the sound of hooves, dozens. An alarm is raised. You try to sit up. Your vision swims. Voices shout in panic. A fire is knocked over. A tent collapses. Someone screams. You can't run. All you can do is lie there, watching shadows flicker across the trees, praying they don't notice the weak ones lying still. And if they do, you grip a rock, not because you'll win, but because you want to go down doing something. The attack never comes. It's a false alarm. In the end, it was just a deer. But you notice 4 more people missing in the morning, and no one mentions it again. The fever breaks just before dawn. You wake drenched, shivering, but somehow lighter. Your body aches less. Your head no longer pulses like a war drum. For a moment, you feel like you might survive. Then reality returns. Today's orders, relocation. A new base. Rumors say it's closer to the front lines. You try to protest, but the officer doesn't care. You're breathing. That's enough for them. You pack what little you have, tunic, spear, the crusty bandage on your ribs, and fall in line, and says, there. The forest closes in fast. Roots snag at your feet. Branches whip your arms. The mud is ankle deep in some places. Your legs wobble but hold. You're not alone. Dozens of sick, limping men stumble beside you. The walking dead with splinters and blisters. The sun isn't even up when you begin the march. There's no trail, just a vague direction. The officer points toward a distant ridge. Still you move. One man falls. No one helps him. Another stops to vomit and is kicked for slowing down. You're learning the rules now. You're told to reinforce it with branches. You don't ask where to find them. You just stumble into the woods and break what you can. A thorn scratches your face. You don't feel it. Kindness is rationed, like water. Smoke rises in the distance. The officer frowns, too close. Eventually, you break through the trees and find yourself on a slope overlooking a valley. Throw something. You're building trenches and defensive lines, if they can be called that. You've never built anything before. Now, suddenly, you're a military engineer with a sharpened stick and a tired back. He orders you to dig. You barely have the strength to lift your spear, but you do. Adrenaline, terror, and sheer survival drive you into formation, so you dig. The ground is hard and rocky, but that doesn't matter. Based on the way your legs are shaking and your lungs feel like collapsing, you're leaning toward definitely not volunteered, because if you stop, someone will notice. And you don't want to know what happens then. As you dig, your hands blister. The sun burns. Your tunic soaks through. Every breath feels like inhaling ash. You keep going. Historians still debate how much labor was forced versus volunteered in these rapidly shifting war camps. By midday, the trench resembles a shallow ditch. You work until your arms go numb. Then, just as you drop your last branch, someone yells. You look up. A figure approaches from the tree line, alone, cloaked, holding something. The camp panics. Weapons are raised. You grab your spear with clumsy fingers. The figure stops at the edge of the clearing. It hits the ground and rolls. Ahead, screaming erupts. The officer barks orders. You're told to ready for attack. Nothing happens. The figure disappears, just like that. A warning, someone says. Or a message, says another. You stare at the severed head. The face is half-eaten by animals. You look away. That night, no one talks. No one sleeps. You lie in your trench, clutching your spear like it's a pillow, eyes locked on the tree line, waiting, wondering. Morning is a lie. There's no fresh start, no golden light of hope, just the smell of sweat, burnt wood, and stale fear. Your body wakes before your mind does, automatically reaching for the spear you now sleep with like a childhood blanket. Today, they say, is reinforcement day. Still, you swallow it down. You need the calories. Your arms are thinner now. Your skin hangs loose around your wrists. You can count ribs. That means digging more, dragging stones, and reinforcing walls made of mud and panic. You're told an enemy patrol is nearby. Again, no one knows who. Could be rebels. Could be deserters. Could be ghosts with swords. All feel equally real now. Based on your ankle and the look of the men limping around you, the answer is probably no. He doesn't speak. You've tried, but his eyes never meet yours. He just follows orders, lifts, digs, drops, like a machine made of bones and despair. An officer kicks dirt in his direction and says, useless. You keep working. You barely eat. The rice is moldy, the water warm and metallic. Someone collapses while moving a log. No one rushes over. By mid-morning, you're hauling stones to a new barricade. The boy curls beside you, his back to yours. No words, just shared warmth. The slope is steep and your feet slide on loose dirt. You nod. That's the whole conversation. It feels like a hug. You fall 3 times. The last time, you twist your ankle. You pretend you didn't. No one helps you walk. Historians still discuss whether Three Kingdoms camps had any formal system of care for non-lethal injuries. The boy, the one from before now, walks silently beside you. At lunch, you sit together. You don't talk. He hands you a sliver of dried mushroom. In the afternoon, it rains. The trench fills with muddy water. The camp turns into a swamp of soaked cloth and sloshing boots. Fires sputter and die. Tents collapse, and still the officer shouts, dig faster. You wonder how long before the trench is your grave. Then lightning strikes a tree nearby. The blast knocks 3 men off their feet. You're one of them. Ears ringing, mud in your mouth. You lie there blinking at the sky. You think you hear music. You don't, just the wind and the coughing of your fellow survivors. As night falls, the air stays thick. You wring out your tunic and huddle under what's left of a canvas sheet. You hear a whisper from a few feet away. A man is praying, not loud, just repeating a name, not a god. A person. Maybe someone you lost. You close your eyes. And for the first time in days, you sleep without shaking. You wake to quiet. Not silence. There's always the wind, the coughs, the shifting bodies, but a kind of stillness that feels unnatural. You sit up, still damp, still sore. The boy beside you is already awake, staring at nothing. You're handed your spear, which is starting to splinter. No armor, just a dark cloth tied across your chest like that will protect you. Today's patrol day. In practice, it's a long, cold walk through brush, mud, and fog. No one talks. No one trusts their own voice anymore. That means being sent out into unfamiliar woods with 5 other barely trained conscripts and a single officer who looks like he regrets everything. Your job is to scout the nearby ridge. The goal, spot anything suspicious and report back. In theory, the view is Bleaklow Hills, a river that looks like it's trying to escape, and in the distance, smoke. Again, always smoke. You move in a loose line, eyes darting at every snap of a twig. The officer leads from the front, muttering to himself and occasionally checking the sky like it's going to give him a map. After an hour of marching, you reach the crest. The officer raises a hand. Everyone drops low. You squint. A caravan, ox carts, banners you don't recognize. Supplies, he whispers. Enemy, maybe. Desperation blurred the lines. You feel that blur now. Historians still debate how often armies raided neutral supply lines or even their own allies. The officer decides to go closer. You circle down the slope. Every rock shift feels like a thunderclap. Your heart pounds. Hard, your chin hits stone. Your vision flashes. You limp, blood in your mouth, until the trees thin and the camp appears. You get within sight of the lead cart. A man sits at the front, dozing, alone, unarmed. Then it happens. One of your men goes down instantly, a sound escaping his throat like a deflating wineskin. The boy screams. The officer shouts for retreat. The officer steps forward and the trap springs. He just throws his helmet aside and walks into the woods alone. You don't check who's behind you. You just run. From the trees, figures appear. Silent, fast, arrows fly. You run, downhill, branches slashing your face, mud pulling at your feet. Your foot catches on a root. You fall. Someone grabs your arm, pulls. It's the boy. He doesn't speak, just hauls you up and pushes you forward. You crash into the mud and vomit. 3 of you return. Out of 6, the officer is one of them. He doesn't speak. Later, around a fire, the boy finally says something. You hit your face, he mutters. You nod. It still stings. He tears a strip from his sleeve and offers it. You press it to your lip. It's a rough bandage. It works. That night, you lie awake again. You think about the man in the cart, the bait. You think about the others. You think about how fast everything can fall apart. The next day, you're assigned to night watch. Not because you're healthy or alert. No, it's because you're expendable. He hasn't left your side since the patrol. You haven't asked his name. Your shift starts at dusk and runs until dawn. No breaks. No fire. Your wound still aches. Your ankle throbs. But you stay standing. Just a spear, a flickering light, and whatever courage you can fake. It feels too dangerous to name someone who could disappear tomorrow. The camp has thinned out. More men are missing. Some transferred, some dead. No one asks which. The boy is still there. You're handed a torch stub and pointed toward the outer trench. The night air is sharp. It chews through your tunic and settles in your bones. The forest ahead is silent. Too silent. You scan the tree line for movement. Nothing. You hum quietly to yourself just to hear something human. Halfway through the shift, you spot it. A shadow. A flicker. A figure moving too fast, too low. You raise the alarm, maybe. Or maybe the woods took him. By the time the officers reach you, the figure is gone. Vanished into the dark. They berate you for false warning. A fox, they say, or your nerves, but you know what you saw. Later, another guard disappears during his watch. No sound. No struggle, just gone. His spear is found stuck upright in the mud, perfectly balanced. No one talks about it. Historians might say this was paranoia, mass exhaustion playing tricks on the mind. Your hands won't unclench. He finally speaks again. At sunrise, you're released from duty. Your knees give out as soon as you sit. You sleep for 2 hours before another horn wakes you. Today, you're on latrine duty. You scrub wooden seats, empty buckets, burn waste. The stink is unbearable. You vomit twice. Still, it's better than patrol. No arrows, no disappearances. The boy works beside you, silently passing you clean rags. You find yourself grateful just for his presence. That evening, the officer calls an assembly. We move at dawn, he announces. South, toward the river crossing. The mood is grim. Marching again, a new camp, a new set of nightmares. That night, you and the boy lie under a shredded tarp. My name's Lynn. You nod. It takes a moment to find your voice. Mine's doesn't matter. He chuckles, just once. You both fall asleep like that, side by side, names or not. Still alive? Marching again. Your legs are stiff, your back a knot, your eyes gritty with sleep you didn't get. The officer barks for formation while the sky is still a charcoal blur. You stand beside Lem, both of you silent. The tarp you slept under is soaked. Your feet are already cold. The group is smaller now. Too many empty spaces in the line. You begin moving south toward a river crossing the officer insists must be defended. He doesn't say from who. He doesn't have to. Lynn walks with a slight limp now, favoring his right leg. You offer your shoulder once. He shakes his head. Anyone with enough desperation could be the enemy these days. The terrain is rough, thick reeds, sucking mud, the occasional snake that slithers too close. You swing your spear just to keep moving. By midday, your muscles are screaming. We keep moving, he whispers. No matter what, you nod. After hours of trudging, you reach the river. The officer curses under his breath. Too exposed. It's not majestic. It's brown, wide, and smells faintly of rot. A rickety wooden bridge crosses it. You're told to build a barricade. Again, branches, logs, sharpened stakes. You work with what you have. Your hands blister anew. Your stomach growls. Lynn's face is pale. No one talks. Then someone notices the tracks. Boot prints. Dozens of them. Fresh. A scout is sent ahead. He doesn't return. You all know what that means. Night comes fast. You're ordered to dig shallow trenches and sleep inside them. You and Lynn lie curled in mud, side by side, holding your weapons like lovers hold hands. You don't sleep. You listen. To wind, to water, to your heartbeat, to footsteps, distant at first, then closer. A shout. You leap from your trench and stumble forward, spear raised, blind in the dark. Lynn is beside you, mouth open in a war cry you can't hear over the panic. Then chaos. Arrows fly. Men scream. A shape charges toward you. You thrust. It collapses. You don't look. You keep swinging. Someone slams into you. You fall. Mud in your mouth. You can't breathe. Then hands pull you up. It's Lynn. His arm is bleeding. His eyes wild. Move, he gasps. You run together, not away, toward the river, toward whatever safety lies beyond. You cross the bridge under moonlight, chased by shadows and screams. On the other side, you collapse. 10 of you made it, out of nearly 50. The bridge burns behind you. The officer is dead. Lynn sits beside you, clutching his arm, shaking. You reach for his hand. He lets you hold it. You say nothing. You don't have to. Morning reveals what the night didn't. The riverbank is lined with bodies, some floating, some tangled in the reeds, some burned beyond recognition. You try not to look. You fail. Lynn's arm is worse. The wound is deep, angry, leaking pus. You rip your own tunic and tie it tight. He winces but doesn't complain. He just nods once, like that's all the thanks he can afford. We move east, he says, away from the river. Higher ground. There's no officer to give orders now. The 10 of you left stand in a ragged cluster, waiting for someone to say what's next. No one does. Eventually, a man named Kiao Older, missing 2 finger steps forward. No one argues. You march. Less like soldiers now, more like survivors after a storm. It's unsettling. Like laughter at a funeral. You move slowly, listening for danger in every breeze. By midday, the land changes. Hills rise, the air cools, and for the first time in days, you hear birdsong. Find a root an old soldier once said could help with infection. You mash it. You press it to Lin's arm. You hope. You stop to rest near a crumbling shrine. The stone is moss-covered, the statue headless. Lin sits, breathing hard. His skin is hot, too hot. You fetch water, boil it. He smiles faintly. Didn't think I'd make it this far. You chuckle, dry and hollow. Same. That night, a storm rolls in. The group finds shelter in a cave. It's damp, musty, but dry. You and Lin lie on the cold stone. His breathing is shallow. You think it ends soon? He asks. You don't answer. You hear someone in the cave praying again, not loudly, just a rhythm. A name repeated. You realize it's the same man as before. This time you join him, not with words, just with silence and breath and presence. In the morning, Lin's fever breaks. He opens his eyes, sees the light. You look like garbage, he mumbles. You laugh. For real this time? Just once. The cave becomes your camp. It's not safe. Nowhere is. But it's hidden, dry, and above the river. For a day or two, that's enough. You gather sticks, always with a blade in his lap. He doesn't speak much, but when he does, the others listen. Hunt for roots, boil whatever doesn't look like poison. Lin regains color slowly. His fever doesn't return. Kiao keeps watch. You don't know where the army is now, or if it even exists. The road ahead is unclear. Lin suggests heading west. More trees, more food, he says. Kiao says east. Closer to the coast, ships, possibilities. A headless scarecrow still standing in a broken rice field. No one votes. You just move. East, the days blur. You pass burnt villages. Charred wagons. You see no armies. You see no civilians. Only remnants. Once, you find a temple intact. Inside, there's food. That night, a cat appears, gray. Then, it walks around the group once, then curls at Lin's feet. Offerings left untouched. No one hesitates. You eat. You sleep in its courtyard, under carved beams worn by wind and war. You strip and wash, laughing as cold water hits your skin. Lin splashes you. You splash back. You all treat it like a sign. Maybe it is. Historians argue whether desertion was truly dishonorable or just survival. You feel no dishonor. Only the weight of staying alive. You cross another river, this one shallow and clean. It feels like something more than survival. It feels like living. But the road never stays soft. 3 days later, you hear drums. Distant, measured war. Kiao stops, his eyes narrow. He points toward a ridge. You climb and see them, an army. Marching banners, shields, formations, thousands of them, not yours, not anymore. A choice is made without words. You turn away. You walk into the forest. You don't look back. That night, you sleep under trees thick with moss. The cat is gone, but Lin is still there. And so are you. You no longer count the days. There's no need. Time has stopped measuring things like victories or defeats. Now, it moves in steps taken, roots boiled, fires lit and smothered. You and Lin stay with Kiao's group, what's left of it. Inside one hut, you find pickled radish. In another, a comb. Lin takes it and runs it through his matted hair. He grins. You nearly forget where you are. A few others peel off, heading in their own directions. No goodbyes, just nods. Somewhere along the coast, you find a fishing village abandoned but not destroyed. Nets still drying. Boats still tethered. You stay 3 nights. You fish. You cook. You sleep under real roofs, then the sails come. 3 black ships on the horizon. Tiao sees them first, not merchants, he says. You all scatter. No battles this time. Just shadows and quiet escape into the tree line. From a cliff, you watch as soldiers disembark, weapons drawn. They burn the village by morning. Later, Lin says, there's nowhere left. You disagree. You point inland. The cold bites deeper than the war ever did, but the sky feels closer. The air cleaner. You see hawks. You see clouds below you. Toward the mountains. Higher, wilder, harder, but maybe free. The climb is slow. Brutal. One day, Lin stops and stares at the horizon. He doesn't say a word, but, you've made it. You're no longer soldiers, no longer deserters, no longer part of anyone's map. You're just 2 boys who survived everything the world threw at them. You sit on a ledge, eating roasted roots and laughing like it's the only thing left. It might be, and maybe that's enough. You lie down under a sky filled with stars that don't care who you are or what you've done. And for the first time since all this began, you sleep without fear. They do not remember the names of generals or the battles that broke you. They shine just the same for heroes, for deserters, for boys who walked into war and walked back out again. Without waiting for the next alarm, he doesn't speak. He doesn't need to. You both understand something now that can't be said aloud, without reaching for your spear. No anthem to sing. Just the soft crunch of leaves, the hush of distant birds, the rhythm of a world that no longer watches you. Just sleep. Just quiet. Of the names you forgot and the faces you couldn't save. You let them all fade into the stillness. Just peace. Your body lies still, wrapped in the thin warmth of firelight and fading breath. The wind whispers gently across the rocks, threading through your hair, brushing your skin like a mother's hand. Above, the stars pulse softly, slow and unbothered. They do not ask who you are. Lin breathes beside you, steady and calm, the fever long gone, the scars faded to quiet memory. There's no banner to raise. And you let go of the spear, of the mud, of the blood and fire and screaming. The night is long, the air is thin, but your heart beats quiet and steady. You are alive, you are free. You are enough, and now the wind slows, the sky deepens, and your eyes close. Because finally, it is safe to sleep.